Welcome back. Today we are gonna just work a little bit more on the box example. I'm gonna have another extra class to be added to the existing class called box. Therefore, that's what I said at the beginning of the class. Everybody, please make sure that you have your box class available. I'm gonna shortly show you on Visual Studio which part of it needs to be exactly as it is. And today I'm going to create an extra class, call it label. I'm going to do it from scratch on the screen. Everybody follow me, create another, but under the same program, not a separate class under the same different project. It should be under the same project. And then I'm going to teach you aggregation, which is going to be the relationship between the two classes under the same project on Visual Studio. So this is going to be the focus for today. How to define another extra class inside the same project, and then how to create aggregation relationship between the two classes, how to overload some of the constructor, how to increment, how to decrement, and a little bit more detail about just giving more advanced knowledge to C++ under object-oriented programming. So stay with me. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to start with showing you what's the requirements from the previous lecture. If you haven't watched my previous, go first look at those. If you didn't understand how I created this box class from scratch, go watch that one. Make yourself familiar with creating a class, especially all the knowledge you need for the box. And then I'm gonna today define another class, call it label, and then assign those labels to each of these boxes accordingly. So initially I created a class right in here. I'm gonna just push it to the side. So under the main.cpp, just create your template. Wait for me, we do not need the previous one. Previous one, remember I created multiple boxes, square base, cubic, random boxes, pointer, smart pointer, and I show you how to implement functionality of each of those. Now today I'm going to create label for them. Therefore, that's why even if you want to keep the initial main programming under the main, it won't create any error since that was fully functional. But since that was a lengthy program, and today I'm going to teach another one in order to just make it clear for you, I remove the main, keep the .cpp as it is, and today I'm going to add a static variable. I'm going to add copy constructor. I'm going to add overloading operator, prefix operator, postfix operator, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to quickly take you to the a slide. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in here because I prefer to show you through the programming and stuff. Just going over this, it may not make sense until I implement, but generally I'm going to have, for example, one class. In this example, let's say 3, if this is the name of the tree. Then I'm going to have some subclasses or extra classes which are going to communicate with the main class and get some of their information from the main class. So simply means between these classes, some information are going to be common information. That's why I'm going to use the static variable to share some information among all objects of a class. So these are going to be the object of a class with same information. Some of the information is going to be shared. That's why I need to use static integer for that. So first thing first, let me create this one. Anytime you are going to create a static, first thing first, go ahead, just inside your box header file, you need to add a static member. But since I haven't still defined my label, which is another new box, this is going to be inside your header file. I keep like the code on the side. Why is that? Because some of you may not be able to follow me on the screen, stay behind. If I move in between the classes on Visual Studio, I keep a copy of the code which I did it before. I kept it right on the side. You may want to look at the side of my screen in case you are behind to just compensate for that part. So let's start with the static member. How do I define static member inside the class? A static member could be done under the private. So if this is a private section of my code, I can go ahead, add more information right in here. So for example, first one is going to be a static member. If I'm going to define it, I have to go ahead and say static. You practice this with me. I'm inside the box.h file under the private. Use the keyword static. Why do I use it? Because I'm gonna share some information between the two classes. I haven't started creating the new class yet, but since I'm gonna create it shortly, start with a static integer, give it a name. For example, I'm gonna give it box count. This is how we define a static member. So I leave you a comment right in here. This is the static member under private member. So I'll go back. So that's the first part. I did it. So now you know how to define it. You use the static keyword and then give it a data type. For me, I used integer in the box example. And then in here, I gave it some name. Then right after that, I'm gonna just practice with you copy constructor. Copy constructor again is a constructor. It's gonna be very similar to what we did to create a constructor before. But again, since I'm having multiple objects such as a box and a label for today example, copy constructor simply means it's going to copy the information from one object to another object. So I'm going to copy the information of the box object into a label object, right? So we are going to practice copy constructor. I'm not going to come back to here. So I'm going to give you a review from the like plan for today, and then I'll spend the rest of the class on Visual Studio instead of in here. Copy constructor means you have one object with some information. If both objects are going to follow the same dynamic memory, if you change the content of one object, the content of another one will change accordingly. Make sense? That's what we call it copy constructor. But in situation, I'm having different dynamic memory for the two objects. Suppose I'm having different dynamic memory for box class and label class. Also, I may use the same constructor, but since their dynamic memory in that situation is different, if I change the content of one of them, the other one won't change accordingly because the location or the address location is different. So we can have the copy constructor with the same dynamic memory or with separate dynamic memory. Make sense? We are going to practice that one. Then I'm going to practice the application of this pointer. This is a keyword. It's not an option to adjust it based on your choice, make it capital or add or maybe remove something. It has to be exactly as it is. This one is a predefined pointer. We are going to use it to again communicate between the member functions. So we are going to continuously use those to just address which object in the class we are going to. For example, I'm going to create box with multiple models of box, and then I'm going to create label. Then I'm going to use this to each time talk to the compiler. This means this object, or means object 2, or means object 3, or so on. So I'm going to use that one also. And then I'm going to overloading means changing the information. Overloading can be used. So far we practice overloading for constructor, we practice overloading for function, and today we are going to practice operator overloading. Operator again is a keyword. Each time I can overload it with increment, I can overload it with assign, right? Or I can overload it with maybe less than or more than. So there are multiple methods that we can use. Like for example, in here, you can see that I can use assignment operator. This is what we call the assignment, increment operator, decrement operator. But there are some operators that we cannot overload them. For example, question mark. We cannot overload question mark or colon or dot. or dot asterisk or colon size of. These are still called operators, but not every operator has the option to be overloaded. Some of them, such as assignment, increment, decrement, less than, more than, shift, yes, I can overload, and I try to add as much as possible based on the time to show you the application of them. And at the end, I'm gonna look at aggregation. As I said, aggregation means relationship, means two classes, they do have a relationship. For the example of today, I'm having box class and I'm going to create label class. Simply means each box supposed to be ordered from a certain company, suppose McMaster University with a certain address. Therefore, that's the relationship between these two classes. Means this size of the box is being ordered only for this company and this address. So they do have some information to exchange. So anytime I'm going to exchange information, or I would say create aggregation, pay attention, this is important. This is one example I show right in here. Later on Visual Studio, I'll show another one. Look at here, I'm having two classes. I'm showing them with red and green. First class is student info. This is the class name. Second class is called a student. Anytime I'm going to create aggregation between the two class, that's supposed to happen under the private member of the second class. For example, in here, my second class private member is this part. Therefore, if I'm going to create a relationship between this class and that class, I have to address the name of the initial class, which is right in here. I'm going to highlight with pink. Like in here, a student info is the name of the initial class. If I use it very similar to a data type in the private member section of the second class, and then give it another variable name could be just anything, like for example in here personal data, then also this is under the private member section of the class, is going to create an aggregation between the first class, which is a student info, and second class, which is a student. That's how we build a relationship or aggregation between the two classes. Yes. We are just including this one into, like this one into this one. Yeah. And then another example before I move to the programming, like for example, I'm having one class called course, and then I'm having two extra classes as instructor and textbook. Pay attention. This is UML diagram I taught you last week. Anytime that you are going to create a class, you need a box with 3 cells. First one is the class name. Second one, with minus means they are going to be your private. And then the third line or the third cell of the same table is going to be plus, which is going to be your public, right? So now, anytime you see this diamond closer to one of those classes, simply means that class is the one which is going to share information with the other two. If you pay attention, you can see this class is course, right? This class is instructor. So this is the main, means this one and this one supposed to be aggregated to this one. How? Through the private. This is the private section, right? Through the private, I can see the name of this one is called as instructor. The name of this one is also called as textbook. This is how I create. In here, I'm having 3 classes. Shortly, I'm going to create 2 classes. You can have many different classes and then connect them through the private member section of the initial class. And that's how you create aggregation. Now, that was a quick, short theory. It's time to go ahead and implement it step by step and see the application through the C++ programming, more detailed, I would say, object-oriented programming on Visual Studio. Stay with me. Go ahead, open your box classes. In case you don't have it, I'm going to quickly show you. You can just go ahead and screenshot what I have while you're looking at the recording. Okay, under your box.cpp initially, I'm going to minimize to show you. So this is the box.cpp. So under the box.cpp, I'm going to create those. You can just keep it as it is. Under the box header file, I'm going to define some of the information about the box, but what you need to bring in from the previous example. you can, as I said, you can screenshot while I'm showing this in the recording. You can screenshot and create it. From the previous example, which we are going to modify, look at here, this is the box example from lecture 4. So I included this part. If you don't have it, screenshot and type. This is a box header file, which is the specification file, including private and public. We need this exactly as this is, and then we are going to add. Then keep the box.cpp also. This is the box.cpp. You may want to screenshot this one and include, type it in your Visual Studio if you don't have it. And then anything like the source and the stuff. Last week, you don't need this. This is the last example I show it, but you do not need the .cpp of that file. In case you want it for reference, you can again screenshot this and type it and see the functionality, only one class. Otherwise, today we are gonna, if you do have it right now, students here in the class, just remove anything inside the main. We do not need the white display for today. We already looked at the application of this code, and today we are gonna change it and create something brand new. So I already explained all of those for your reference. Now stay with me as we are going to just create another class, call it label. I already defined, let me go to my label again in case you are just trying to understand what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna define another class, call it label, and then I'm gonna create aggregation between the label and box. In case you forgot, how do I define a class from scratch? Right click on source. It should give you add, and then choose the class, give it a name. I'm gonna choose the label. You may want to choose anything else. Hit OK. It will create another class. Remember, you already have the box class, okay? That's my assumption. Now, as soon as you have that one, just double check you do have the label.h, which is right in there, and you do have the label.cpp. And then we do not need the solution explorer. You can just minimize it. And I'm gonna start from my header file, because header file is where we are going to have the specification or the class members, both private and public. So how do I define it? This is what we already did. So either you can use the pragma ones, as you can see on my screen, or you can edit it and use if and if, which is a better method, and make sure at the end close it with and if to avoid error. You may want to also add using namespace to just save time and do not repeatedly type std colon colon. That will help. And it's time to again, this one will help you to even review how I define a class from scratch and public, right? These are my private section and public section. So I'm going to give for this class, I'm going to create, since plan is label is going to be the name of the company. I'm going to choose our university, McMaster University, for the name of the company. And I'm going to create address, which is the address for our university. So therefore, I have to use a string. Pay attention. I already included hash include the string to avoid error. Add that one. Then say a string, give it company. This is going to be my variable. You can choose any other name. So I'm going to say company name. And remember, I said I'm going to create address and simply semicolon. This is going to be my only private members for this label class. Under public, my plan is just adding setters and getters and constructor, because later I'm gonna teach you again overloading the constructor. Constructor always, as soon as I wanted to start, I have to start with the name of the class. So this is constructor. We start with the name of the class. If you want it to be default, leave your parentheses empty and then define it with some constant information. Still, that will be considered. So say company name. I'm gonna assign it to some characters later for simplicity, and I'm gonna add another one. Make sure this is not comma, this is colon, right? And then I'm gonna give another one for address. I'm gonna assign it again to some characters for simplicity later, and close it up with semicolon. This is it for the label. So this is considered a default constructor, right? And then I'm gonna have non-default constructor label, and then a string again, and a string again, because both of label and address, both of them are strings. So this is going to be my non-default. Simply means later I can assign some information in here. So have a string, a string. A label should be capital for me. I don't know how you define it. I use uppercase, so I keep using uppercase. So now, as soon as I type this one, I see this green, underline green. Simply means I need to give this one more detail, but not here, inside the .cpp. Let me finish the header, then I'll move to .cpp and I'll give it more details in there. My next plan is defining some name for the company and address for the company, which that's supposed to happen through setter or what? What's the other name of setter? Mutator. So I'm going to add mutator. How do I add it? Void keyword is set. I'm going to set the name, whatever your name. Again, it should be your choice. And then I have to say a string. Since I said company name, I'm going to just give it a short name in here. I'm going to say, I'm going to call company assigned to CN. You may want to do the same. You repeat this a step. Void set address. You can set the address. Again, I'm going to use a string. For address, I'm going to say AD standing for address. You can choose your own option. And then address, I defined it with lowercase. Then I have to again say address assigned to AD, and I'm done with this mutator. I'm going to also, again, for the purpose of practicing and reminding you about the accessor. Accessor, the keyword for accessor is what? Who can tell me? Get, right? So I have to say get. I'm going to create only one accessor as get label. And since it is accessor, I'm going to turn it to const or constant, and I'm done. But still, you pay attention. I'm having two underline green simply means I have to go ahead, give them more detail as implementation for this to under the label.cpp. So I'm done with the header file. Everything looks fine. Look at here. But still I need to go to label.cpp. Do not go to a wrong file because now we have multiple files. It's easy as you're beginners. It's easy for you to just go to a wrong location. All I need in here is giving more detail to my accessor and mutator. So for example, I had label. Label is the name of the class, and then colon, colon, again label. And then first one, it was a string. Remember, I called it CN standing for company name. And then right after that, I had another string. I called it AD standing for the address. And then I'm going to give it more detail. So now, again, I repeat, what was company name? Company name is assigned to CM semicolon. And then right after that, address is assigned to AD for the address. So I'm done with my setter. It's time to go define my getter or accessor. So all I have to do a string colon colon a string class name, which was label. This is my class name, and then colon colon, and then get label, because that's the only, and it's constant. That's the only accessor I have. And then return your company name plus, just in order to make it nice, you can include this or you can avoid it. Backslash n means I'm planning to have my company name in a single line and then move to the next line and then print out the label, which is the address. That's why I added this one. You may add or you may ignore. It's your choice. You may have them back to back if you would like to. So I'm done with my .cpp. Now if I go back to validate, I can see the underline green on line 19 and line 24 is gone. I'm done with the specification and the implementation for my class label. So it's time to go ahead, start working on creating some relationship between the label class and the box class. Anything else like all of those operator overloading and stuff, I'm gonna do them through the box. So I go back to my box.cpp and I start maybe box.label. I keep it right box.h, which is my specification. I already created. I'll keep the box.h on the side. You may come back and look at this one in case you need more information. So remember, under the box.h, do not go to the wrong location. I already created my static member. That's the first thing. Now I'm going to create aggregation. Means that because now I have another class called label. How do I do it? Since I have the label right now, I can simply call the label, and then label is going to act right like a data type in here. But you may say it's not known. Why is not known? It is blue. Simply because I have to come back here and I have to add hash include, first call the label, right? Hash include label, label.h. Then if you scroll down, you can see your label turns to blue, means now it is known. And then give it any variable. I'm going to give it label variable as lowercase to not to confuse them. So now this is what we call it, aggregation. I leave you a message. This is going to be my comments. Now this is how you create it. I'm going to remove this space. So remember, how did I create aggregation? Just under the private member of the box.header file, I called my label class, and that's the way that you can create the aggregation between the label class and box class. So now on, you do not need to keep connecting them because they are already connected, and even only under header file is enough. You do not need to go under the box.cpp or the main.cpp to keep including like the label. Since it is already included in here under the header file of the box, simply means it is available everywhere else. Yeah.
It wouldn't throw an error though, would it?
Pardon?
If I were to include it, it still wouldn't throw an error though. It's just saying it's there.
Therefore, the error might be something else. So look at here, I do not have any error. All you need is hash include label. Pay attention about lowercase, uppercase.
It wouldn't throw an error if I accidentally put it in the wrong one. If I put it into like main.cpp.
No, it won't. It won't. You mean this line?
Yeah.
No, this line, like any other library that you call and you never use.
It'll just be there.
Yeah, it's just in here. If you even put it in the other, anything with hash at the beginning of the code, you can call, for example, in here ctime, you can call, for example, hash anything, iostream, iomanip, you can call all of them, but not using them, it won't give you error. But in terms of requirements, just one time calling it in here technically is good enough. If you're repeating it, it's not necessary, but it won't give you error. So now I'm done. I created aggregation relationship. I defined my static member. Still, I'm having some public right in here. It's time to add more boxes. I already had like the cubic, I already had the square, but today I'm gonna create more boxes. Why is that? Because now I do have label also. I'm gonna show how. For example, box, integer, integer, and each of this integer is standing for length, width, height. And today I added a string as well. Therefore, I would say a string, because I have one for the company name and I have one for the address. Therefore, add those. And right after that, I can also add another one. I can go ahead and add another box. Again, this is going to be constructor because I start with box. And I want this one to be constant. So say const. And I'm going to say box, address operator. And then I'm going to create another const for label. And I have to make sure that I have both of them inside the header file as well. And this is going to be for the label. So it's gonna be, I'm missing the L, label. So create this part. Everyone following? Okay. So now, I'm gonna now go ahead and teach you how to create also a copy constructor. A copy constructor. So in order to create copy constructor, again it's constructed, therefore I have to start with box. And I can say constant. Remember I said what is copy constructor? Copy constructor is going to be anytime that you are going to create a new project, the information of the copy like constructor can be copied into that new project as well. Therefore, I have to define it right in here as constructor or const. This constructor is a copy, then const box, again, and operator, and done. This is what we call it, a copy constructor. So anytime you, that's why I left you just some note in here. Anytime you create any new object, then this is going to be initialized with another object's data, like for example, for any new one. So I'm done with this part. I created all of this tree, all of them underlined green. Anytime you see things underlined green inside your header file, simply means you have to go back and define them inside your .cpp. So I'm gonna stop right in here. To complete this stuff, I'm gonna go to my box.cpp. And then in here also on the site, I leave it for you in case you wanted to follow. Some kids, they already told me this is easier for them to follow. So because I leave in here box.cpp. So I'm here. Inside the box.cpp, I need you to initialize first your static. Remember, I defined the static in here. This is my static. Therefore, I need to just go inside the box.cpp, initialize it. Otherwise, I'm going to get error. It was integer in there. Therefore, I have to use integer. It was box, colon, colon. The name was box count. It will pop up for you. You can choose to avoid error. And then I'm going to assign it to 0. And this is done. So if you don't initialize your static member inside the .cpp, that would be an error for you. That one is done. Now, remember we added a couple of more constructor right in here. Right in here, I added some more constructor, this 3. Now I have to initialize them right in here too. Otherwise, I'm going to get error. Therefore, I'm going to say box, colon, colon, box. First one was 3 integer and 2 a string. Remember, I'm going to quickly show. 3 integer right in here to a string. I have to just define it inside .cpp. So I have to say integer, give it, for example, L for length, and then integer. These are my assumption again. These are not exactly a rule. You can just use any variable. Variable could be anything. So I'm going to give it integer width, W for width, and then I'm going to give it integer for the height, H, And remember, I had two a string. I already assigned CN and assigned AD for those two. I'm not gonna change. It has to be as it is. And then I'm gonna give it some more details. For the details means right in here, I'm gonna push it. For the details in here, I have to say what is L, W, H, CN, and AD. So I have to say length. I'm going to say my length is assigned to L. That's the first one. And then I'm going to say width is assigned to W. That's the second one. And then I have height is assigned to H. That's the third one. And then I had company name. Company name. Where is my company name? I'd assign my company name to CN. Okay. Somebody tell me why I cannot choose it. Simply because company name was defined under label, right in here. CN is defined in here and in here, company name. That's not accessible. Therefore, inside the box.cpp, in order to get access to that one, I have to use my setter. Remember, I set this one to set name. To set name. Set name is accessible. Instead of company name, I have to say set name. How? Like this. I have to go ahead and call label dot and then use the set name. I already have set name, so this is accessible. And then I can inside here say what was it. I can do exactly the same label dot. I had set address. These are my mutators inside. Remember, mutators inside the label class. And I'm done. And next, I had the box count. For the box count also, I can go ahead right in here, say increment my box count. Since it is already defined, it is accessible right in here. And I'm done. Yeah.
So why was our setter accessible?
Because I already got access to label to box header file inside here.
Yeah. Okay, so it just went. Yeah, that was the thing you're talking about before.
Yeah. I already defined it in there, therefore they are accessible. And remember, I said the members are going to be.
It's just.
So now I'm done with this part. All of those steps are done. If I go back to validate under my box, remember I had three of them. See, look at here, line 27 is already fixed. There is no more underline green because I already defined it. Now I have to look after 28 and 35. So I'm going to come back inside the box.cpp, make sure where I am, do not code under the wrong file, and then just spend hours and hours for troubleshooting. Again, say box colon box. And then this time, remember I had constant box and operator. And then I had just some label for it, or I would say some variable. I called it B. So I'm going to use B. And then I'm going to do the same for the label. So I had constant label and operator. And for label, I'm going to give it LBL. This is just my assumption. Again, you can have your own. And then I'm going to go through the same procedure for these two. And I'm going to say what are. So now, remember I told you I'm going to use predefined pointer called this. It's time to look at the application. So I'm going to use asterisk this and then say what is the B and what is label. This is easier. So I have a predefined label. Predefined label means I do not need to define a certain variable and then set it to another pointer to set their address. Remember, that was the way that we define a variable and then we define another pointer variable and then we say, hey, the first variable comes to this pointer variable, right? But when we have a predefined variable like this, we are skipping one step. That's helping us to skip one step. So now I can say this is assigned to B, and then about the label. So therefore, this is going to address the box. This is addressing the box, not the label. It's addressing the box. And for the label, I have to use label. Label is assigned to LBL. And that's it. Now, if I go back and validate in here, my other, under the box header file, this line, remember, it was underlined green. Now it is fixed because I've detailed it inside the .cpp. All I have left is line 35, the copy constructor. So I come back and I define my copy constructor right in here, which is going to be the last one. It's short, easier. Box, colon, colon, box. And then again, copy constructor was constant, box, and operator. Remember, for box, I already said my assumption is going to be only B for simplicity. And right inside here, this is my copy constructor. I'm gonna say since this is copy constructor, is going to copy all information from the box to label. Therefore, I have to call all of them. What was length? Length was, so I have to say length, get the length from the box dot, that's how we say it, box dot length, right? This is the first one. This is how we copy. And then we do the same for width. Get the width from where? From box dot, and then again still width. Make sense, kids, what I'm doing? And do the same for height. For height is copied from box, then say box dot height. And that's it. And that's how a copy constructor works. Yep.
For the constructor, okay, why don't you do the asterisk this for the labels?
Because I'm under the box. And I'm defining the this under the box. Therefore, this is by default addressing to box, not label. Make sense? This is a predefined, remember, predefined pointer, which is addressing to the location of that certain class. I'm inside the box right now. Therefore, it is addressing to box. That's why I do not need to say anything. Just say this. By default, this is predefined. Since I'm inside the box, it is available to box. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And for the constructor, copy constructor, I'm done. Hopefully everybody else got the copy constructor properly done. If I go ahead and check my header file again, I see that, okay, this one is also fixed. Everyone following me so far? Lucian, are you following? Yeah? Okay. So quickly double check everything and make sure you have no error. All your files are so far good. This way you can just with confidence continue the next one. Even at this point, we can go ahead and print out if we have more information inside the main. But since I have still more detail to teach you, I don't want to just come back and see out at this point, but I will do at some point. So I'm done with all of those. I'm going to go back to header file. I practice copy constructor with you. And now I'm going to go practice box count. Remember, I already created one label. I initialized my static member to be a box, right? To be box count. So now I'm gonna, under the header file, I'm gonna move also in here to the header file for the box. I'm gonna go ahead and define that one too. That's inside my public member. Right after all my getters inside my public, I'm gonna address the count. How? Remember, for that count box, I had it with integer. Therefore, now I'm gonna make it like a get. Now go get that box count, and make sure this is going to be constant. And then define it or return it right in here. What do I want for the return? Just a box count. And box count right now should be known because I've already defined it. And just close it up with semicolon. So I'm done with that part. So I have my box count right now. Right after that, it's time to practice the overload operator or constructor first, and then I'm going to add some operators. I already defined all of this gets and sets for the length, width, and height, and of course, the functions of volume and surface area in the previous example. That's why I already have them at the beginning. I'll show you. You can just bring them from the previous example. So now I'm looking at a little bit more about overload constructor. So I'm going to add a little bit more in here. So there is one other keyword called friend. We call it friend. This is a keyword, kids. This is not something that I'm gonna just, for example, customize it. And then this is going to give me the access, direct access to the private member, not the member function, to the private member of the class. Therefore, I use friend to get access to private members. So I use OS stream. OS stream is standing for output, okay? OS stream means output some information. OS stream and then AND operator. And then it's time, remember, I'm going to practice also operators. Use the operator. Operator is a keyword. Shift, and then go ahead and output the information of the box. I'm going to output the information of the box. Pay attention, this is going to be parentheses, not curly bracket. This is parentheses, okay? Do not use curly bracket and just generate error for no reason. Then inside here again, say OS stream, and operator, comma. You want also box and operator, and close it up with semicolon. Again, friend is helping you to get direct access to the private members, not the member functions, just the private members. Next, I'm gonna add a little bit about another operator. So I'm gonna add addition operator. Remember, I said not every operator could be overloaded. Later, I'm gonna overload them. But how do I define addition operator? So it's going to be constant. I'm going to use constant. And since I'm using the box, then say constant box operator. Addition operator is known. We practiced it even in C++ in the previous semester. So just a plus. And then again, parentheses, pay attention, not curly bracket, parentheses, constant. Again, box and operator, and that's it. This is going to be the addition operator. I've already left you some comments above the line to remind you what I'm doing. How do I add assignment operator? It's very similar. Just const box, and then again I use operator. So const box operator. Assignment means use the equal sign one time, and then open your parentheses, again const, again box, and operator, and close it up with semicolon. That's how you define assignment operator in object-oriented. I'm going to practice relational operator. Follow me. Relational operator means I'm going to look at the true false of an object. So therefore, true false means Boolean. I use bool. Bool operator. For this one, I don't use box. I say bool operator. And then less than. This is another operator. Less than operator. I'm looking at relational operator. Again, this is constant. Pay attention. And now I can say box and operator. This is how you use relational operator. Then you can say something is less than or bigger than the other one. We use it to bool. Next, I'm gonna practice with you increment operator. How do we do so? Increment operator, I have to say box and operator, the term operator, and then increments, remember, means plus plus. We had this before. Again, I have to open parentheses. This is increment. I can leave it empty. That's it. So far, so good. Still following? Kids in the back of the class, are you following? Girls sitting in there. I don't see your faces. Are you following? Good. So right after that, I practice increments. It's time to practice prefix and postfix. Prefix, again, I have to say box and operator, right? And then it's prefix, means plus plus. Yes, for relational operator, did I practice increments? I practice with you increments. Let me just review. Relation, I did it for you. And then after the relation, I practice increments. Increment could be either like the postfix, prefix, okay? So I already defined this one for you. This is the same. I already did the prefix for you. I'm gonna just leave this in here. This is going to be your prefix plus plus. So now I'm gonna do the postfix. For the postfix, it's the same, only include your integer. That's it. And semicolon, and I'm gonna move this one in here for you. This is going to be your postfix. So increment operator could be either postfix or prefix. I believe it's time for you to look at what you are missing. Anything underlined green means you have to go to .cpp and give them more details. Make sense? Make sense, kids? So I'm done with it. How many things we have to go define? We have to define line 59, line 62, 66, and 69. These are the next task for us. So it's time to go back to box.cpp. Box.cpp. So we already defined those. Now it's time to explain them right in here. So first one is OS stream. Remember OS stream. So I'm going to start with OS stream. And then again, colon, sorry, OS stream and operator. OS stream and operator, I define them as operator. And then shift, and then I have to define OS stream exactly the way that I did it in the other header file. This is .cpp inside. So now OS stream, I'm going to give it a label or a variable like out. So I'm using out. I have to do the same for the box. For the box, I'm going to say B. And then define it. What is out? What is B? So for the out, I'm going to have multiple. So I'm going to say out is going to be, I'm going to clean up to section wise. I'm going to say these are my box attributes to section wise, my output inside the console after I debug. And then I'm going to add and L. This is just to clean out my output. So I said, no, not output, just out. Out, and then give it your definition. Do I have everything in here? Yeah. Right after that, I'm going to say out. So I have OS stream operator, and then OS stream out box B. OS stream and operator out box B. So then out, now you can just go ahead, use B dot, B is standing for box, means get them from the box. B dot label, you can use the label right in there. And then dot get label, dot get label, because those information is supposed to come from the label. And then just go ahead, add endl. This is the first one. Oh, you know what? This quotation should be right in here. That's why I was having it red. That was a typo. So the quotation should be before the shift, right in there. I'm going to repeat this one for the rest, but since the rest is going to be something that is like regular output, I'm going to copy for the sake of time to be able to output the whole thing and show you, take it and show you the functionality. So you keep repeating the same thing for the length, width, height, and volume, but make sure each time you have b.length, b.width, means get all of those information from the box class. Because now we have two classes. Get them from the box class. That's why we say b dot either of them. So my OS stream is done. If you have it done properly the way I do, and if you go back to your box.header file, you should see your OS stream underline green is gone. That's a confirmation you did it properly. Now I have to define my addition operator, this one, to make sure, and then I'll come back and validate. My addition operator. So for that one, I should say again, it was a constant. It was box, colon, colon. So it was box, constant box, colon, colon. Actually was box, box. Remember? Let me go back. It was box operator. Then in here, box, box, colon, colon, operator. And then what was it? So it was addition, right? So therefore use the addition, parenthesis, anything inside there. It was constant box, right? Constant box and operator, and I called it B. So it has to be exactly like what I had in there. And now you can give it more details inside here. So for the detail, you have to define maybe an object right in here. I'm going to call another box object. This is going to be my box object. And then I'm going to now for that object, each time say object dot length. You can have length, width, because you are going to create a new one, right? And then for the length, remember we had this, right? I can use this as an predefined pointer. That's my predefined pointer. This length should be known if you did it correctly. Plus, because I'm going to add b dot, I'm going to get my length from the box right now. So then say b dot from the box. B means from the box. Dot length means get this one from the box. And repeat this one for the width and length. And since it is going to be the same, again, for sake of time, I copy this one to make sure I can demo the functionality. So do the same for the width, do the same for the height. I wait for you. Now, if you go back to your header file, you should see that this one is gone. This is fixed also. All I have left is my assignment operator and relational operator. Everyone following? So now I'm going to do my assignment operator. For assignment operator, kids, it was, again, I'm going to say constant. I have to go back and double check. Did I use constant for assignment? Yes, I did. So this is a constant box. So I have to say constant. I have to say box, 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 colon, colon. Again, operator. And this operator was assignment. Therefore, use assignment. And then again, constant, box, and operator. I called it B. So you have to use the same thing. And now you have to define. So this is going to be assignment operator. Now I can say if, remember I have the this. If this is not assigned to the same address B, Then you have to go ahead and do something in here. Then go ahead and say this, I do one, and then I'll get you to repeat for, I do the length, and then I'll get you to repeat this one for width, then go get it from b dot length. Repeat this one for the width and for the height. One more time. So just change this one to width, change this one to width, and change this one to height, and this one to height. Hopefully everyone got this point. And if you go back to validate before you move forward, here we go. This one is also fixed. All I have left is my Boolean, which is the relational operator. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and finish the Boolean one for you. So that one data type is Boolean, again box, and then I'm having colon, colon. What was the operator in there? Who can remember? Less than, right? And then again, constant. And then it was box and operator B. Now define it. I'm gonna bring it up to make sure you can see it. So that one is Boolean, so it means it's a conditional statement. Just start with if. If, very similar to what I did in here. If this, now say if this, for the Boolean one, I'm going to look at the volume. It's under the function volume. So I'm going to say volume. And remember, anytime you are calling the volume, you have to include the parentheses. If volume is less than, get the volume from B, means B dot volume. If the volume of this new object is less than the volume of whatever I have inside the box, then what do I want? Then return true. Return true. That's one thing. I'm gonna scroll up. Else. It's Boolean, so I can use else. Else, I want you to, I don't need bracket because I only have one statement. Just return. If it is not like that, then return false. That's it. Now, if I go back, that one should be also fixed. I'm gonna double check before. Here we go. This one is also fixed. We are done. Okay. So all I have left is just my prefix and postfix. All I have left to address is those two, and then we are ready to go to the main and just define our output. So I'm done with this prefix and postfix. For the prefix, I had box, box. Actually, the first box, I'm gonna double check, is just AND operator. I have to just address it exactly as it is. Box AND operator. Box. Why is not known? Okay. Box AND operator. I typed it again. Box AND operator, box, colon, colon. This is my prefix. So operator is prefix, means plus, plus. Operator means plus, plus in here. And it was easy. It was just leave it empty and go ahead and define whatever you have inside it. So operator plus plus, this is means add, means plus plus length, plus plus. So get the length and simply semicolon, and then get the widths. You can have it for the widths, and then since it is prefix, add the plus plus at the beginning, and do the same for plus plus height. You've got all of them. You are good to go. All you need is return, but simple, simple, simple. Return this, because now you are still in here. Return this means return all of them. This is your prefix. I'm gonna leave this message for you right in here. This is your prefix. All I have left is my postfix. I'm gonna create postfix right in here. So I would say again, box, colon, operator, plus. Remember that one was integer. I'll do the same. And then this is going to be, I'm going to leave my message here. What this is your postfix operator. Since I'm creating postfix, say box. And then I'm going to create a temporary box for the postfix. I'm going to create temporary box. I call it temp. And then give it some detail. Say my detail in here, let's say is going to be length. This is a temporary one, okay? I'm going to use length, width, and height, right? And then simply close it with semicolon. And then right after that, again, this is going to be my postfix, right? Do I have in here any typo? Operator. So it's gonna be box operator. Let me go back. Yes, I have this one missing. Okay, it's fixed. I was missing the AND operator. So it's box. This is going to be AND operator. So box, then now I can just increment. Postfix with length, semicolon. Postfix with, very similar to what I did for the previous one. And then with the height, and we are good. And all we have to remember, I have box counts. For the box count, I'm going to decrement. You can say box count should be known if you already defined it properly. Decrement your box count. And remember, you have to return. Return what? You have to return your temporary box because I have created a temporary box. Say return temp. I'm going to show you the whole thing. Make sure you have this one done properly. And now it's time to quickly check all your files before we move to main. So here I'm okay, no error. Here I'm okay, no error. Everything fine in here, no error. Everything fine in here, no error. It's time to go to main. Yeah.
Says that it may not be declared outside of its class.
Probably you defined it in a wrong way. Let me finish, and then if still it is there, I'll come and help you to fix it. One more time, I'm going to quickly show you with the bool. Make sure that you have it properly done. Yeah, just quickly check it with mine. You have to have box, colon operator. Yep, probably you have a typo in there. Make sure you do not have semicolon in front of the if. That's important. Yeah. Okay, then also you have to look at your header file. How did you define your bool in here? The header file, you have to make sure because it's only in these two. Yeah, it has to be less than constant box.
So
Then I'll come and check it for you. Let me finish this one. Now, all I have left is going to my main because we have only a few minutes left. Let me finish up the main for you, and then we are able to debug. And anyone who has any error in their code, I'll come around, I'll check yours, I'll troubleshoot your code, and I'll see what the issue is, and we'll go from there. So inside the main, it's time to go ahead and just define what I'm going to see out. I'm going to see out box. I'm going to create one object, call it object one. My object one, remember I had one of my constructor to be integer, a string. So I'm gonna just call that one. Box object one is my first one. So I'm gonna give it 3 integer. For example, I'm gonna give it 30. I'm gonna give it 45. These are going to be the length, width, and height, and 60. Plus, remember I had 2 string. One of them the name of the company, which I'm gonna say McMaster University. And the other one was the address, which I'm going to say 1280 Main Street. Main Street West. And then I'm going to minimize for you to see, close it up with semicolon. That's the first one. I can go ahead and immediately see out this one. Say see out. And then see out what? This is object one. See out object one. And here we go. That's the first one. So I'm going to create more objects to call all of them. And then at once, I'm going to just debug them. Then say box. For the second object, I'm going to create another object. Call it object 2. This object, I do not want to give it a string. I just want to give it the sizes for the size of the box. So I'm going to call, you can give any. I'm going to say 20. I'm going to say 15. Pay attention because very soon I'm going to do even some mathematical operation. And that's it. I'm going to see out this one too if I want to. But I wanted to keep it for now and then add them to another. I'm going to now call label. For the label, remember I had it LBL. So I'm going to give it some info. For example, McMaster University. This is my label. And then I'm going to give it some address again, 1280 Main Street West. This is going to be inside the quotation to make sure you won't get error. And then right after that, you are able to close it with semicolon. So label, what I'm missing in here. Do I have everything ready in here? Why I've got label, McMaster University. Oh, I'm missing the quotation in here and the quotation in here. Yep, those two quotations. So make sure about your quotations for the strings to avoid any error. Now I'm going to create, so far I've got object 1 and 2. Pay attention. Now I'm going to create another object, which I'm going to call it a combination of 2 and 1. Therefore, I'm going to call it 2, 1. Means I'm going to combine 2 and 1 and come up with something. 2 and 1 means go get some information from object 2 and label, LBL, because I've already created that one. And now I'm going to see out this object 2, 1 and L. Here we go. So far I created 3 objects. Object 1, 2, and 2 and 1, which is a combination of object 2 and label. And now I'm going to create another object, call it box 3, which is object 3 box. Object 3. This one, pay attention to what I'm going to do. I'm going to just add object 1 plus object 2. And object 2 is already including the label. So I'm going to add these 2 objects together to create another object called object 3. And you can simply see out object 3 and we'll see it inside the console shortly. And then these are all the objects that I want. I don't want any more object. But now I'm going to do some comparison. Because I already had some temporary box to compare, if object 1 is less than object 2, remember I had the volume. That one, the Boolean was for the volume. So if object 1 means the volume of object 1 is less than object 2, then do what? Then I want you to see out B1 means box 1 is less than B2. This is what I want. And L. That's one thing. Else, I want to see out otherwise means B2 is less than B1. And so far so good, kids. Everyone following? Almost done. A little bit more patience, almost done. So now, remember I had a temporary box. I have to call it. It was temp. Remember, I had a temporary box. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give some detail to that temporary box, which I was calling it temp. Did I have temp or just temp? I think I had it just temp. So I'm going to say temp box. Yeah, I had it just TEM. That's why. So then I'm going to say, remember that was the increment. So I have to say for this one, I want object 3 to be incremented. This is that one. And then I can see out. See out my temporary box. My temporary box. And here we go. This is extra. Okay. Next, I've got that one done. All I have left is, again, temporary box. I'm gonna do the postfix. I'm gonna say now temporary box is assigned to postfix. Get the object 1 and postfix. Remember? Then see out the temporary box again. Temporary box again. I had prefix, I had postfix. I'm trying to see out all of them to show you. So now I'm done with this. And also to compare, I can see out another line for you to compare how the actually postfixes happen. If you say only object 1, what will happen? And also, this is just a validation for you. And then the very last thing I'm going to see out is see out your count box. Remember we had count box? Count box means how many boxes assigned to. And then how do I get that one? I say object 1 dot get box. I'm going to get it from get box count because I have already done that one. And that's it. And I believe we are ready to see out. Good timing. Everybody check. I'm going to minimize this one for everyone. I'm going to go from the beginning of the main.cp quickly. Check yours with me. If needed, take a screenshot and check your own solution. This is what I have under the main.cpp. So everything under the main.cpp, everything under the box.cpp. Box.cpp is lengthy. I cannot show the whole thing at once, but I show it in two times. This is up to here and of the maybe up to this line 38, and then after line 38 what I have is just this much. Still it's lengthy. Still I have to just show you the rest. From line 71, this is what I have. And then from line 102, see how lengthy is this one? So it's a really, really good practice. Everyone who can get this done, you are going to be somehow pro with creating classes and all of this aggregation and everything. This is the label.h. This is the label.cp. These are shorters. You can just see quickly. And this is my box.h. Box.h also, this one is long. So I'm going to just show you in. So up to 38, line 38, and then from 38 to, this is from 38 to 75, and 75, a little bit more is going to be closing your class right in here. So hopefully everybody got all of this. It's time to just give it a try and see all of this efforts can pay off. Debug yours. It takes some time. It's happening. It's supposed to give me multiple boxes, and we can just validate the functionality with what we have inside the code to make sure there should be something, maybe a semicolon, maybe some, yeah, there should be some small semicolon or something like that, which I'm gonna quickly fix it. Yeah, it is right in here. Inside which operator? Box.cpp. Let me quickly fix this one to make sure everything will work. So probably which line? Let me see. Right in here. So inside my stream, do I have any typo? This one is correct. Inside the box.cpp, let me quickly double check that one and fix it. Probably it's just one typo. So let me finish this one recording. So I noticed that I have to come back inside the box.cpp. I was missing the return this, the return part for this one. I was missing it. Just add this one and then give it a debug. Here we go. So right now you can see that all of them, I can just show you all of them from the beginning. This is the first one, separate like all of the sizes, volume, height, and the address, and of course the company name. And then I have another box with address, company name. And then look at here. For the first box, the length is 30. For the second box, the length is 20. And then remember I said get the object one and to add them together to become the length of the third box. And this is happening now. This is validation. 45 plus 15, it becomes like in here 60. And then you've got 60 plus 25 becomes, so this is a validation that you did all of them correct. And then for the rest, you had, for example, all of those addition, and you can see all of them right in here. So hopefully everybody can get similar answer to this one. I'm gonna stop this right in here. In case you have any question, come back to me, ask me, and anyone who has question, I can come and help you. You've got some errors, so I'll be there shortly to help you. So I'll finish this one right